Welcome to Thursday's lesson. Today we're going to do pages 436 to 439. Now yesterday at the end of Wednesday's lesson I asked you to go ahead and complete exercise 24. Complete the sentences with the verbs in parentheses. You were supposed to do numbers 1 through 8. And right before we do that, just to review the basic overall review of, we have to look at the if clause and the result clause to determine if it's real or unreal. And then what time phrase is it going to be? Real in the present future, unreal in the present future, or unreal in the past? Just to go over that, remember, if the situation is real in the present, the if clause is going to be in the simple present form of the verb. The result clause, the simple form of the verb. If it's real in the future, the if clause is also in the simple present. And the result clause, you're going to use the auxiliary will plus the simple form of the verb. If the situation is unreal in the present or future, the if clause is going to be in the simple past. And the result clause, you're going to use would plus the simple form of the verb. And finally, if the situation is unreal in the past, the if clause verbs are going to be in the past perfect. And the result clause verbs are going to use would have plus the past participle. Okay? So, and chart or exercise 24 was a review of, those skills that we learned from chart 20-1 all the way to 20-4. Meaning you're going to use real in the present future, unreal in the present future, and unreal in the past. Okay, by looking at these, okay, I'm going to go over the responses. Please check your answers. Conversations. You should tell your father exactly what happened. If I were you, I would tell him the truth as soon as possible. Again, you should tell your father exactly what happened. If I were you, I would tell him the truth as soon as possible. Remember that we're using were in conditional sentences instead of was for singular and plural subjects, okay? Number 2, if I had had my camera with me yesterday, there's a key word there, yesterday, so it's in the past, it's unreal in the past. I would have taken a picture of Alex standing on his head. Again, if I had had my camera with me yesterday, I would have taken a picture of Alex standing on his head. This is unreal in the past. I did not have my camera, therefore I did not take a picture of Alex standing on his head. So this is unreal in the past. Number 3, I'm almost ready to plant my garden. I have a lot of seeds. Maybe I have more than I need. If I have more seeds than I need, I will give some to my neighbor. This is real in the present future. Okay? I'm almost ready to plant my garden. I have a lot of seeds. Maybe I have more than I need. If I have more seeds than I need, I will give some to my neighbor. Number 4, George has only 2 pairs of socks. If he had more than 2 pairs of socks, he wouldn't have to wash his socks so often. If he had more than 2 pairs of socks, he wouldn't have to wash his socks so often. And this is going to be real in the present, unreal in the present future. Okay, he doesn't have more than 2 pairs of socks. Number 5. Since I broke my foot, I haven't been able to clean my apartment. Person B. Why didn't you say something? I would have come over and helped you if you had told me. So again, I would have come over and helped you if you had told me. There you have parallel structure in the last part of that sentence. Would have come over and helped. Okay, and then if you had told me, that's past perfect in the if clause. Okay. Person A says, I know you would have come right away if I had called you, but I didn't want to bother you. This situation is unreal in the past. It means I didn't call you and you didn't come. Okay? Number 6. It's been a long drought. It hasn't rained for over a month. If it doesn't rain soon, a lot of crops will die. If the crops die, many people will go hungry this coming winter. Again, it hasn't rained for over a month. If it doesn't rain soon, a lot of crops will die. If the crops die, many people will go hungry this coming winter. Okay? And this is a real situation in the future. Okay? Number 7. Shh, your father is taking a nap. Uh-oh, you woke him up. Person B says, sorry, if I had realized he was sleeping, I wouldn't have made so much noise when I came in. Again, if I had realized, there's your past perfect, he was sleeping, I would not have made so much noise when I came in. This is would have, and then the past participle, and it's negative also. So this situation is unreal in the past. I didn't know he was sleeping. Okay. The next one. What would we use to look at ourselves when we comb our hair if we did not have mirrors? What would we use to look at ourselves when we comb our hair if we did not have mirrors? Okay. So this is unreal in the present, future. Now, let's go to exercise 26. This one is a listening exercise. I'm going to read the statements 2 times each, and then we'll answer the questions yes or no. Listen to the statements and answer the questions. Okay? So in this case, you will hear, if Bob had asked me to keep the news about his marriage a secret, I wouldn't have told anybody. I know how to keep a secret. Did I tell anybody the news? Yes. Did Bob ask me to keep it a secret? No. Okay. Number 1, A. Am I going to go... Oh, I'm sorry. Let me read it first before we check that. Okay. If I had enough time, I would go to the art museum this afternoon. I love going to art museums. Again, if I had enough time, I would go to the art museum this afternoon. I love going to art museums. Number 2, Mrs. Jones is really lucky. If she hadn't received immediate medical attention, she would have died. Mrs. Jones is really lucky. If she had not received immediate medical attention, she would have died. Number 3. If I were a carpenter, I would build my own house. I would really enjoy that. If I were a carpenter, I would build my own house. I would really enjoy that. Number 4. So many people died unnecessarily in the earthquake. If the hotel had been built to withstand an earthquake, it wouldn't have collapsed. So many people died unnecessarily in the earthquake. If the hotel had been built to withstand an earthquake, it would not have collapsed. So number 1, if I had enough time, I'd go to the art museum this afternoon. I love going to art museums. Am I going to the art museum? No. Do I have enough time? No. So number 1 is no for both. Number 2. Mrs. Jones is really lucky. If she had not received immediate medical attention, she would have died. Did Mrs. Jones receive immediate medical attention? Yes. Did she die? No. Number 3, I'm sorry. If I were a carpenter, I would build my own house. I would really enjoy that. Am I a carpenter? No. Do I want to build my own house? Yes. Am I going to build my own house? No. Number 4. So many people died unnecessarily in the earthquake. If the hotel had been built to withstand an earthquake, it would not have collapsed. Was the hotel built to withstand an earthquake? No. Did the hotel collapse? Yes. So number 1, A and B, no. Number 2, A, yes. 2B, no. Number 3, A, no. B, yes. C, no. Number 4, A, no. C, yes. All right. Let's look at exercise 26, please. And here, ladies and gentlemen, we've got numbers 1 through 11. 10 and 11 are on the next page, 438. But anyway, let's look at the instructions. If clauses can be shortened by the use of an auxiliary verb. Study the examples and then complete the sentences. So it's important to look at these examples, okay? Ella isn't patient, but if she were, she would be a better teacher. Now you notice here in the beginning, okay, the main clause, isn't is in the present negative. So in the if clause, we're going to make it past affirmative. It's the opposite of this. Present, simple present, simple past. Negative, affirmative. Look at the second example. I don't live in the city, but if I did, I wouldn't need to take the subway to work. Don't is the auxiliary used in the simple present, and it's negative. So we're going to take this auxiliary, make it simple past, affirmative. So present, past. Negative, affirmative. The next one. I didn't go to bed early last night, but if I had, I would have gotten up earlier. Here, didn't is in the simple past. So if you remember back in chapter 12, like in the reported speech, here this is in the simple past. So this verb over here is going to be in the past perfect. So you go from simple past negative to auxiliary past perfect affirmative. So the meaning of these sentences, these are shortened if clauses. Ella is impatient, but if she were patient, she would be a better teacher. I don't live in the city, but if I did live in the city, I wouldn't need to take the subway to work. I didn't go to bed early last night, but if I had gone to bed early last night, I would have gotten up earlier. See? So these are shortened if clauses. These are shorter. But the auxiliary, you have to use it in the right form to make it correct. Look at number 1, 2, and 3. Those are done for us. I don't have a pen. Okay, look at this auxiliary verb. Present negative. So in the if clause. But if I past affirmative. So you go from present to past, from negative to affirmative. But if I did, I would lend it to you. And this means I don't have a pen, but if I did have a pen, I would lend it to you. Look at number 2. He is busy right now. So here, is, verb be, simple present. It's affirmative. So over here, we're going to use the verb be, negative, in the simple past. He is busy right now, but if he weren't, he would help us. And here, the if clause means if he weren't busy, he would help us. Number 3, I didn't vote in the election, but if I had, I would have voted for Senator Todd. So over here, this auxiliary is in the simple past, and it's negative. So over here, I'm going to make my auxiliary past perfect affirmative. I didn't vote in the election, but if I had, I would have voted for Senator Todd. And this means, but if I had means if I had voted, I would have voted for Senator Todd. See? Let's do number 4 and 5 together. I don't have enough money, but if I blank, I would buy that book. Now look at this auxiliary here. This is in the simple present and it's negative. So you're going to say, I don't have enough money, but if I did. So you go from simple present to simple past, from negative to affirmative. But if I did, I would buy that book. Number 5. The weather is cold today, but if it blank, I'd go swimming. So here's the verb be. It's affirmative. So I'm going to change it over here to past tense negative. The weather is cold today, but if it weren't, I'd go swimming. Okay. Go ahead and do number 6 through 11, please. All right, let's look at number 6. She didn't come, but if she blanked, she would have met my brother. So here, the auxiliary is going to be in the simple past, and it's negative. So over here, the next step is past perfect, affirmative. She didn't come, but if she had, she would have met my brother. So this means if she had come, she would have met my brother. The shortened if clause. Number 7. Helium is lighter than air. Okay? If it blank, a helium blimp wouldn't float upward. So here you say, this is the verb be in the simple present, affirmative. You're going to change it to simple past, negative. Helium is lighter than air. If it weren't, a helium blimp wouldn't float upward. And the meaning of this if clause means if it were not lighter than air. Okay? If helium were not lighter than air. Okay? Number 8. I am not a good cook. So here's the verb be, and it's negative in the present. But if I blank, I would make all of my own meals. I am not a good cook, but if I, from present negative to past affirmative, but if I were, I would make all of my own meals. So here means if I were a good cook, I would make my own meals. Number 9. He didn't go to the doctor, but if he blank, the cut on his hand wouldn't have gotten infected. Here the auxiliary is in the simple past and it's negative. So over here we're going to use past perfect affirmative. He didn't go to the doctor, but if he had, the cut on his hand wouldn't have gotten infected. Okay? Number 10. I always pay my bills. And this is on the next page. Okay? If I blank, I'd get in a lot of trouble. Now here there is no auxiliary. So remember the rule, we learned this rule back in level 1. If there is no auxiliary and there is no verb be, we're going to use a form of do. Okay? In this particular case, pay is in the simple present and it's affirmative. So you can say, I always pay my bills. If I didn't, I'd get into a lot of trouble. Didn't is in the simple past, negative, because there's no auxiliary here and there's no verb be. So we're using didn't. Okay? And there's no, we can't use this. This is a frequency adverb. Okay? So if I didn't, I'd get in a lot of trouble. Didn't, in this particular case, the if clause means if I didn't pay my bills, I'd get in a lot of trouble. Number 11. I called my husband to tell him I would be late. If I blanked, he would have gotten worried about me. Okay? So here, called, this main verb is in the simple past and it's affirmative. So the next step, over here, we're going to use past perfect negative. I called my husband to tell him I would be late. If I hadn't, he would have gotten worried about me. And the if clause here means if I had not called my husband to tell him I would be late, he would have gotten worried about me. Okay? Now, this next chart and the next two exercises, we're going to use a progressive form of verbs in conditional sentences. Okay? So, if we look at the warm-up on exercise 27, it says read the statements and answer the questions. Olga says, if I hadn't been painting my apartment, I would have gone to a movie with my friends. And Yoko says, if I weren't painting my apartment, I would go to a movie with my friends. So number 1 is asking, who is busy painting her apartment now? And the answer is Yoko. Because if I weren't painting my apartment, who was busy painting her apartment earlier? Olga. If I hadn't been painting my apartment. Okay? So here, in this particular chart, okay, it says, notice using progressive verb forms in conditional sentences. Notice the use of progressive verb forms in these examples. Even in conditional sentences, progressive verb forms are used in progressive situations. Here's the real situation. It is raining right now, so I will not go for a walk. Now you notice here, this is present progressive, is raining. So we're going to make it conditional. If it were not raining right now, I would go for a walk. So we change it from present progressive affirmative to past progressive negative. If it were not raining right now, I would go for a walk. Look at C and D. It was raining yesterday afternoon, so I did not go for a walk, okay? So this particular sentence, this is past progressive affirmative. We're going to change it to a conditional sentence. We go from past progressive to past perfect progressive. If it had not been raining, I would have gone for a walk. So you go from present progressive to past progressive. From past progressive to past perfect progressive. Okay? And it's the same pattern as, exercise 28. You're looking at the first part and changing it to the next tense over. And if it's negative, you're going to change it to affirmative. If it's affirmative, you're going to change it to negative. Okay? It's the same principle, but here we're talking about progressive verb forms. From present progressive affirmative to past progressive negative. From past progressive to past perfect progressive negative. Okay? So if we look at exercise 28, ladies and gentlemen, make conditional sentences. Look at this. I am working. Present progressive. And it's affirmative. If I were not working, or if I weren't working, past progressive negative, I would be home. B. I am not working. Okay? I'm not working. Okay? So here, this is present progressive negative. If I change it to past progressive affirmative, if I were working, I wouldn't be at home. Okay? Look at number 2, A, B, 3A, and B. Go ahead and do those, and we'll check in a minute. Okay. Let's look at number 2A. Fortunately, the copy machine was working. This is past progressive affirmative. So you're going to say, if it past perfect progressive negative, if it were not, okay, if it had not been working, I'm sorry, if it had not been working, we wouldn't have finished our presentation. If it had not been working. So you go from past progressive affirmative to past perfect progressive negative. B, the copy machine wasn't working. So this is past progressive negative. If it, in this particular case, had been working, so you go from past progressive negative to past perfect progressive affirmative. If it had been working, we, and then your result clause, would have finished our presentation. Because you go from past perfect, you say would have, and then finish the past participle, our presentation. Number 3, the elevators weren't working. So here you go, okay, here I have past perfect negative. So I'm going to go to past perfect affirmative. If they had been working, I, then you're going to say, would not have walked up to the top floor. This is conditional. If they had been working, that's past perfect progressive, I, result clause, would have not, negative, walked up to the top floor. It's a conditional sentence. B, the elevators were working. Okay, so you say, okay, this is past progressive affirmative. Okay, if they, so you change it from past progressive to past perfect progressive negative. If they had not been working, I would have walked up to the top floor. It's conditional. I didn't have to walk up to the top floor because the elevators were working. And then number 3A, I wouldn't have walked up to the top floor if the elevators had been working. Okay. Exercise 29, please. Change the statements to conditional sentences. And this is again looking at using progressive verb forms in conditional sentences from chart 20-5. You weren't listening, so you didn't understand the directions. But, so this is here, this is past progressive negative. So you say, but, if clause, if you had been listening, so you say, okay, past perfect progressive affirmative, you would have understood the directions. Okay, from negative to would have in the past participle. You aren't wearing a coat, so you're cold. Aren't wearing, present progressive negative. Okay, so you're saying here, but if you were wearing, because this is negative, it says, but if you were wearing a coat, you would not be cold. But if you were wearing a coat, you would not be cold. Do number 3, 4, and 5, and we'll check in a minute. Okay. Number 3. Joe got a ticket because he was driving too fast. Here we're saying, okay, this is past progressive affirmative. And then this verb over here is in the simple past, affirmative. Okay, so you say, but if Joe hadn't been driving too fast, comma, he wouldn't have gotten a ticket. Again, but if Joe had not been driving too fast, comma, he would not have gotten a ticket. Number 4, I am enjoying myself, so I won't leave. Here, you're saying, okay, present progressive affirmative. Okay, and this verb is present in the negative. So you're going to change this and it says, but if I weren't enjoying myself, comma, I would leave. So from won't to would. But if I weren't enjoying myself, I would leave. Number 5. You were sleeping, so I didn't tell you the news as soon as I heard it. Okay? So in this particular case, we're sleeping, past progressive affirmative. Then here, this is negative in the past tense. So you're going to say, but if you had not been sleeping, comma, I would have told you the news as soon as I heard it. Again, but if you had not been sleeping, comma, I would have told you the news as soon as I heard it. Let's look at exercise 30. And again, this is using the information from chart 20-5, progressive verb forms and conditional sentences. Complete the sentences with the verbs in parentheses. Make conditional statements. It is snowing. We can't go outside. So here you say, okay, this is present progressive affirmative. So you start, if it, past progressive negative. If it weren't snowing, we could go to the park. Number 2, it wasn't snowing. We went to the park. So here you say, okay, this is past progressive negative. So we change it. If it had been snowing, we wouldn't have gone to the park. Because here you're using the past perfect progressive. Since this is negative, this is going to be affirmative. Let's do number 3 together. Elena just got out of the shower. She is drying her hair with a hairdryer, so she can't hear the doorbell. So if you notice here, she is drying, that's present progressive affirmative. Okay? So you say, I'm going to change it to past progressive negative. If Elena were not drying her hair, she could hear the doorbell. If Elena were not drying her hair, she could hear the doorbell. Go ahead and do number 4, 5, 6, and 7, and we'll check in a minute. Make sure you check out the tenses of the original sentences. Elena was waiting for a package to come, but as it happened, she was drying her hair when it arrived, and she couldn't hear the doorbell. So here you say, okay, past perfect, I'm sorry, past progressive affirmative. So you're going to use over here, you're going to use, in this particular case, past perfect negative. If Elena weren't drying her hair when the package arrived, she could have heard the doorbell. If Elena weren't drying her hair when the package arrived, she could have heard the doorbell. Weren't drying. No. I was looking at number 3. If Elena had not been drying her hair when the package arrived, she could have heard the doorbell. Because we're going from past progressive affirmative to past perfect negative. If Elena had not been drying her hair when the package arrived, she could have heard the doorbell. Sorry, I was looking at the wrong sentence. Number 7. Max is at a party at his friend's apartment, but he's not having any fun. He wants to leave. Max wouldn't want to leave early if he, okay, in this particular case, okay, is not having, you say, okay, he is not having any fun. So you're going to change it to if he were having fun. Okay? In this particular case, this is present. This is present. In the progressive tense, and it's negative. So here you're going to change it to past progressive, affirmative. So Max wouldn't want to leave early if he were having fun. Number 6. My sister was reading a text message when she was driving and wasn't paying enough attention to traffic. When the car in front of her stopped, she rear-ended it. That means she hit the car in front of her from behind. Okay? So here, my sister was reading. So you look at that and you say, okay, this is past progressive, and it's affirmative. So you're going to change it to past perfect progressive. If my sister, and since this is affirmative, you're going to change it to negative. If my sister had not been reading a text message, she wouldn't have rear-ended the car in front of her. Again, if my sister had not been reading a text message, she wouldn't have rear-ended the car in front of her. Because this is past progressive and it's affirmative, so we change it to past perfect progressive negative. Number 7. Simon is vacuuming the car. When he vacuums, he can't hear his phone. Okay, so Simon is vacuuming. So it's okay, this is present progressive affirmative. So you're going to change this to past progressive negative. If Simon were not vacuuming the car, he could hear his phone. Again, if Simon were not vacuuming the car, he could hear his phone. All right, ladies and gentlemen. Now, tomorrow, Friday, is an institutional holiday. We won't be online. So on Monday, we're going to continue. We're going to start with pages 440 to 443. Okay? And please make sure that you're caught up with all your worksheets and submit them. Okay? We only have 4 more class sessions next week, and then we will have the final exam a week from Friday, which will be April the 17th. Have a nice long weekend. Stay safe, stay healthy. I will be in touch with you on Monday. Thank you.